much money Rabbi has, or,
Or the private jets.
yep.
Or how much I get paid to have in the kitchen.
I get paid lots of beans,
I will share.
whole beans,
I will share my
Man,
salary.
espresso
Okay.
beans.
Okay.
If you got real food, you will be a rich
Share
man.
nothing.
I know, already Tiger cut half of my salary,
Yeah.
and that's bad.
We got like natural deodorants and all kinds of weird stuff Sunday.
Even hair coloring products.
Yeah, henna hair coloring.
And I took home the dark brown. So as soon as I get my hair cut, I'm gonna tint it dark brown. Just because. Yeah, but I mean,
He wants to use the henna.
yeah, I wanna use it. I wanna go through the 4 or 5, 6 hour process.
And henna is such a messy process. I
It
don't
is.
know
I
why
was watching
anybody
online.
would. That's probably why we got it, because they bought it because it sounded exciting. And then they looked at what they had to do and they went, oh no.
Yeah. The what?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, my ears.
Authors.
Ulcers?
His name is
Author.
also Paul.
Oh.
Like the person that wrote the book.
Who's got ulcers?
We will
Wait,
in a
man, I
minute.
can't wait till you're like 65.
If you
bro.
got ulcers, there's this book right here. The Cure for All Diseases. They work.
Who tried to give me that the other day? Somebody.
Brandon gave it to us.
Oh,
No, yeah, hold it.
She was an amazing woman, there's a lot of stuff in there.
I could just say just fast, and that's gonna take care of everything.
I think he
here.
was disappointed I don't have any diseases. I guess he expected I would have a lot.
You can tell him I have that book, it's a great book.
Oh, did he look at your face and decide that's it?
You know what the top cancer researcher said about cancer, he's from Purdue. You know what he said? To prevent cancer, once a year, 7-day fast, he said. Well, most likely, you'll never develop.
7 day on what?
Just fasting, water, minerals, electrolytes, no calories. Because cancer survives on sugar, carbs. You starve that out, it can't grow, it dies. It is, yeah. Well, that's why when they put that chemical to see how your cancer's progressing, it's sugary. Because it eats it up, it swims it up right away. They put the nuclear,
Well,
you know,
good thing I'm
that
not eating
radiation,
sugar at all.
sugar solution, and the first thing to gobble up is the cancer, so they see it,
If you do keto diet.
you know, it radiates more. You've seen pictures of it, it's just like, it's like a sponge. It'll absorb it before all the other cells do, that's why, the cancerous tumors will shine the brightest.
I understand, but that's.
It's sugar, because it's sugar, huh? I was until I came here tonight, darn it. I was on 28 hours. That means I gotta start all over again, but that's the hardest part.
I couldn't fast for
What, 28 hours, what, no?
Huh?
Fasting.
Fasting?
Yeah.
See, fasting is so overrated. That's between meals.
Wait till you hit 40 and 50, then you might change your tune of that stuff.
I'm
Once you start
67, I
getting,
still
my
think it's
blood
stupid.
pressure's high, I gotta take these pills, diabetic, pre-diabetic, I gotta take,
I get a
they
headache.
found this tumor in me, you're gonna start, your tune will change a bit.
I get a headache.
I don't know, we're old and we haven't changed, we don't care.
Whether you fast, you don't fast, possibility for.
Yeah, do it for the Lord, yeah.
That's how I feel. God already determined my days, so I don't have to worry about it.
But it's a quality of life. So, first time I fasted, it was just a health fast. Second time, I said, okay, I'm gonna incorporate a little prayer in it. And I was praying for people to come to Michigan. We had some bad apples, and anyway. And the Lord brought us great people.
Grapefruits.
Yeah, better than the rotten apple.
Fasting is one of the first things I did to help come in faith through Christ. Or when I'm going through a crisis, like.
If you're going through a
I
crisis,
just fast.
fasting and prayer is good.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why animals don't eat when they're sick, because that's the body way of fighting.
Fighting the-
Without food, their body has a
So
better
now you're,
chance of
now you're
fighting.
taking medical advice from animals?
No, that's like dogs, you know, dog. We have, oh, hey,
But yeah, like, for someone said, like, oh, I look down,
Yeah.
even fast on a
like
certain day, like.
testing 1, 2, 3,
It should take me a second to find, like,
testing 1, 2, 3, testing, testing, testing.
I don't know if it's, it's like.
Someone's setting me up for failure. Which one do I do?
It's number 8.
Or, are you
Yeah.
Testing.
Yeah, right.
Did you turn the camera on?
I did.
Screen?
Well, I don't know, I just turned it on. Oh, you know what they did? They probably turned it off with a mask. No, it's green.
Okay. I mean, I can hear it
It is
coming in there.
Corinthians, 1 Corinthians, chapter 10, 31.
Testing, that's why it was off.
You had a mute.
Sorry, a minute
You had
late.
to mute.
Yeah. Welcome to our Tuesday night Bible study. Our little discussion before we went live was just, it's not medical advice, so it's just our personal opinions on certain medical matters. You'd have to do your own research. But anyway, welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight. We are, I think, 2 chapters away from finishing this book, Is God a Moral Monster? Tonight we begin chapter 18. Actually, it's been in 1 chapter a month. I mean, a week. So it's been 18 sessions so far. Would help to turn this on.
It would.
All right, tonight we're looking at chapter 18, the root of all evil. Does religion cause violence?
It has.
Just ask Abel. Just ask Abel, yeah. No, just ask Cade. Okay, but we'll talk about Cade tonight. All right, let's keep these in mind. What are we keeping in mind? The questions. So these are the questions at the end of the this session, chapters. What do you think of the claim that monotheism leads to violence? Well, why are they picking on monotheism? Why don't they pick on polytheism as well? But anyway, are exclusivistic truth claims the problem? Why are Enlightenment values not the solution? Why is the term religion in this discussion often being used unfairly? What do you think about the claim that sociological, historical, ethnic, or economic factors commonly lurk behind religious hostilities? Can you give some examples? Regarding Regina Short's critique, why is Cain not a good example of monotheistic exclusion? How about Esau? Must all gifts from God, example, intelligence, artistic abilities, be distributed equally to show that God is truly just? Why or why not?
That's okay, Amy had her mouth full when you misspelled Esau, so. She couldn't say anything, she's just been chewing frantically.
Why is absolute hospitality a picture of injustice? What do we mean by speaking of the right of self-exclusion? The Crusades are commonly mentioned as a critique of the Christian faith. How do you respond to this? How do the Crusades compare to Islamic jihad? I didn't bring my Quran. Or Old Testament Yahweh war so unlike Islamic jihad? All right, key insights. In order to do the key insights, I got to go to the book here and read it. Okay? In this chapter, Paul Copan confronts a widespread claim that religion is a primary source of violence in the world. He argues that this view, often associated with a new atheist movement, is not only historically inaccurate, but also fails to consider the deeper, more complex causes of violence. Now, while religious groups have certainly been involved in violent actions, Copan emphasizes that violence is not a phenomenon that can be solely attributed to religion. Human beings have long committed violent acts for reasons that include power, politics, economic gain, and social structures, all of which intersect with religious ideologies, but are not solely driven by them. Copeland also highlights how religious texts, including the Bible, are often misinterpreted or manipulated by individuals or groups to justify violence. The Bible itself, he argues, consistently promotes peace, justice, and love. And when properly understood, it provides a framework for addressing conflict in nonviolent ways. He concludes by pointing out that the atheist regimes of the 20th century, such as Stalinist Russia and Maoist China, also resulted in massive violence, demonstrating that non-religious ideologies are just as capable of producing violence as religious ones. So I think on the our first day, I did have some slides on how many people died under Stalinist Soviet Union and Mao.
Over 60 million.
Yeah, at least, so the numbers I've seen range between 30 million to 90 million for Stalin, and there's about 50 million for Maoist revolution.
Yeah.
So let's just take, the middle there, you're right, 60, that's 60 plus 25, we're looking at more than almost a quarter of the United States population. And that's not to include also Cambodia, Pol Pot.
Yeah, like
I mean, they didn't have large population, but it killed 1/3 of his people. 1/3, yeah, 1 out of 3. And what was he? Communist. All right, key insights. Core principles. Yeah. Complexity of violence. Violence cannot be solely attributed to religion. It is often rooted in political, social, and economic factors. Misinterpretation of religious texts. Religious texts, including the Bible, are frequently misused to justify violence, but they themselves contain teachings that encourage peace. So who knows off the top of their head one verse that they'll use from the Bible to justify violence? Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, okay? What else?
Vengeance is mine, says the Lord.
What's that?
Vengeance is mine, says the Lord.
But the vengeance is his,
Yeah.
not ours.
Well, they take it out of context.
But, yeah. Anything else? All right. We move on. The role of ideology. Both religious and non-religious ideologies can be used to promote violence, with history showing that atheist regimes have committed their own atrocities. Human nature. Violence is often a product of human nature and sin, rather than religion itself. People twist and manipulate religious ideas to suit their own desires for power and control. Faith and peace. Properly understood, religious teachings, particularly those in the Bible, promote peace, love, and reconciliation, not violence. All right, in Mark, Juger, and Myers, boy, that's a mouthful right there.
Are you done?
In Mark Juergens Meyer's book, Terror in the Mind of God, he claims that religion is violent by nature. How so? He says it tends to absolutize and to project images of cosmic war, even if a religion's ultimate goal is peace and order. Juergens Meyer's recommendation, he says, injecting into religion the softening values of rationality and fair play. This will help stop the violence and killing to produce peace and harmony in this world. But 3 years earlier, Regina Schwartz wrote in her book, The Curse of Cain, challenging the, quote, violent legacy of monotheism, which includes Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. Now, I wonder if Regina Schwartz would have the gumption to go to an Islamic country, let's say Pakistan, and make those claims.
Probably not.
How about Afghanistan, make those claims?
No.
How about Iran? No.
First off, she wouldn't be listened to because she's a woman. So there's that.
All right, anyway.
And if she's a Jew, then that's another issue.
Oh, is she, yeah, I guess the last name gives it away, yeah. Okay. All right, so belief in one God, monotheism, and exclusive truth claims go hand in hand, which allegedly leads to problems for everybody else. Those embracing the one true God will reject, hate, and remove all outsiders who don't accept their God or their worldview. Monotheism and exclusive truth claims create an us versus them mentality. To preserve our own identity and religious purity, they must be removed. This is what Richard Dawkins means about Israel's God being obsessed with his own superiority over rival gods, and with the exclusiveness of his chosen desert tribe.
Chosen desert tribe.
Yeah, just gotta,
That is cute.
you know, that's almost as bad as, what happened yesterday, they were attacking the police in New York, the full-grown adults. And what does Mamdani tweet? And kids were throwing snowballs at the cops. And the pictures, you see these thugs with, you know, covered face mask and knife. Anyway, I don't know why that came to mind.
But here's the thing about this monotheistic exclusionary thing. So each of the monotheistic religions believe that only their faith leads to true salvation. Okay, so this is a problem, because the rest of Christianity, in their liberalism and in their desire to not be exclusive, say that all paths lead to God, or all prayers go to the same God, or we're all children of God, and all of those are incorrect statements.
Okay, can we stop right there? So if someone says that we're all children of God, from what scripture, you can't answer that, Dion. Would you, and Amy too, Amy neither. Would you answer to that claim? Angie?
I agree, we're all made in the image bearers of God.
That's not the
But in
statement.
That's not the
terms of-
statement, yeah, but go ahead.
But in terms of being adopted into the family of God, one has to believe and come through Jesus. There's no other way.
Yeah, it's John 1:12. It was for all who believed in his name and God, yeah.
Because
So
if you don't believe in the name, you're not children of God.
God,
And,
correct.
and you may be made in the image of God, you may have some attributes of God, but you are not a child of God without salvation. So again, this is why the liberal Christian churches are just sending people to perdition over and over again because of their misinformation and their lack of biblical understanding.
So then if you hear somebody say that God created all of us, we're all created by God, where do you draw the timeline?
Well, that's what I preached on that Saturday, so we're really sons of
She was in
Adam.
Africa, I'm sorry.
Well,
But
you could have used your phone and listen online.
we're all created in the image of God, and we're all have the ability to become the children of God, but without salvation through Jesus, you are not a child of God, you are simply a creation of God,
Right,
whether made in his image or not.
that's why I said, we are not all children of God, but we were all created.
Correct.
Right, but that doesn't mean, again, that doesn't mean anything as far as salvation goes. Without Yeshua, there is no salvation.
Also, it's about affiliation, more like family, belonging, that kind of thing.
I'm sorry, what's that? Can you repeat
It's
that?
about affiliation. I'm affiliated to the family of God, because in order to be a child of God, I have to be adopted.
Yeah, well, see, the Jewish people would say that they are affiliated with God too, because it was a God of Israel, the true God, who selected them. But they failed to accept his route for salvation and route for continuance as his chosen. So again, this goes back to you can be created by God and you can have an association with God, but it's not a complete association. It's not a salvific association without the Son.
Yeah. Actually, we're either children of God or children of wrath, right? One or the other. All right, so that's why Cain, whose offering was rejected by God in favor of his brother Abel's, rose up and murdered him. Likewise, God unfairly chose the younger Jacob over Esau, which produced conflict between them. So I'm sure we all know this, but why did God reject Cain when he offered the best of his fruits, of his cosecha in Spanish?
God wants the blood of an animal, and he,
Where would he get that?
Because
How
it was
do you
work
know?
of his hands.
his
Who-
father told him.
Who?
I think Adam told
Okay,
him.
but where do we see that example? We don't hear that directly until the law is given, right? It says there's no remission of seed.
No,
without-
God killed an animal.
God
There
killed
we
the
go, yeah,
animals.
that was what I was
I was
looking
gonna say,
for.
when Adam and
Sorry.
Eve sinned, God killed
Yeah,
the
I know.
animals himself.
That's what I was trying to get
And,
at, yeah.
and we're told that there is no forgiveness or there's no cover, kippur for sin without the shedding of innocent blood.
Correct.
So,
All right, so we see that with Abel raising up, murdering him. Then likewise, God unfairly chose a younger Jacob over Esau, which produced conflict between them. All right. Now, for similar reasons, the chosen Israelites ended up killing the unchosen Canaanites. Click. God was on Israel's side, not the Canaanites. Alienation and murder are the predictable results of monotheism. All right, so for that I have this. Remember what Joshua did when he ran into a man standing in front of him? While Joshua, this is in Joshua chapter 5, 13, 14. While Joshua was near Jericho, he raised his eyes and saw one who stood facing him, drawn sword in hand. Joshua went up to him and asked, "Are you one for us or one of our enemies?" He replied, "Neither. I am the commander of the army of the Lord. Now I have come." Then Joshua fell down to the ground in worship and said to him, "What has my Lord to say to his servant?" I don't know if that's, can someone look it up in their Bible? I didn't think he says, "Are you one of us or one of our enemies?" I thought he says, "or for our enemies." Can someone check on their Bible what it says in your Bible translation? I thought he said "Are you for us or for our enemies?" I didn't think he'd say, "Or you're one of our enemies." Oh, maybe that's what he means, "or one of our enemies." Are you one for us or one of our enemies? I think that's, he's not meaning like, "Are you one of our enemies?" Okay, never mind. Okay. All right, so we shouldn't be surprised by acts like the September 11 terrorist attacks, the very claim that you atheists make. The alternative to coercive religion would be enlightenment values. Would be enlightenment values of tolerance, favoring diversity and pluralism. These values generously welcome outsiders and don't stifle creativity.
there you go.
Enlightenment
All right,
sounds
my
so
food's
good,
starting to come
but
up.
So bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
The worst.
All right, do we just need enlightenment values?
Now,
Rabbi?
did you read about the German enlightenment of the Jews? The Jews decided that they were going to be enlightened and stuff, and so then they held a banquet for all the other Jews and invited all the Orthodox and all the non-Reformed Jews, because they started the Reform movement, the Enlightenment. And there they served lobster and shrimp and crab and everything. And the rabbis completely rejected them and told them, "You're not even Jews anymore. I don't know where you're going with this." So the Enlightenment did not do anything for Judaism or Christianity.
All right, do we just need enlightenment values? The answer is an emphatic no, but let's read on. To the contrary, we could argue that we don't need less religion and more enlightenment values. Ironically, the barbarity of the Enlightenment's French Revolution turned the pursuit of liberty, equality, and fraternity into inhumanity and a nightmare of cruelty. And just look at France today, it's still a mess. As many have argued, institutionalizing pluralism and diversity in society can have the effect of excluding and eliminating traditional religion from the conversation. Now, properly understood, we actually need more religion, not less.
Correct. Just need the right religion.
Yeah, but we need the right kind of religious values, not simply anything that just calls itself religious. Think of Jim Jones, David Koresh, and the jihadists.
I was just looking at an article, listening to a story where a woman was having an affair with somebody, and she worked in a church school, and her alleged boyfriend, who she was having the affair with, and we're talking sexual affair, he also was very religious and they went to the same church. And she was married. And she said, getting divorced is against my values. The only way I can get rid of this is if I kill my husband. So they embarked on, they killed her husband. And then they felt so bad about it, they broke up because they killed her husband. You know? But, you know, how stupid is that you're too religious to get a divorce, but not to kill? What commandment, I'm just dumbfounded by people who are religious as opposed to relationship.
Poor guy, I mean, wow.
And it wasn't solved until 20 years later.
Wow.
Oh, that's the video, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, the poor guy who got murdered, he didn't deserve it.
Nope, he sure didn't.
Now, properly understood, we actually need more religion, not less, but we need the right kind of religious values, not simply anything calls itself religious.
Yes.
Well, given proper consideration, a truly biblical worldview should have a place at the table given its foundation for morality and its positive culture shaping influence. A point we'll explore in the last chapters. The biblical faith actually supports tolerance, despite our disagreements. Human beings are still God's image bearers, and we are to seek to live in peace with all as so far as we are able. What does Romans 12:18 tell us? If possible, just what I just read. If it's possible, live at peace with.
As it is up to you, live in peace with all people.
Correct. It supports diversity because of Messiah's death. He has broken down dividing walls of race, class, and gender. All right, someone go to Galatians chapter 3, read verse 28. And someone go to Ephesians chapter 2, read verses 11 through 22. Yes.
There is
Galatians.
neither Jew nor Greek, there is neither slave nor free, there is neither male nor female, for you are all one in Messiah Yeshua.
Okay. How about Ephesians chapter 2 and read me 11 verses there.
Therefore, remember that at one time you Gentiles in the flesh, called the uncircumcision, or what is called the circumcision, which is made in the flesh by hands. Remember that you were at that time separated from Christ, alienated from the commonwealth of Israel, and strangers to the covenants of promise, having no hope and without God in the world. But now in Christ Jesus, you who once were far off have been brought near by the blood of Christ. For he himself is our peace, who has made us both one, and has broken down in his flesh the dividing wall of hostility, by abolishing the law of commandments expressed in ordinances, that he might create himself one new man in place of the two, so making peace, and might reconcile us both to God in one body through the cross, thereby killing the hostility. And he came and preached peace to you, who were far off, and peace to those who were near. For through him we both have access in one spirit to the Father. So then you are no longer strangers and aliens, but you are fellow citizens with the saints and members of the household of God, built on the foundation of the apostles and prophets, Christ Jesus himself being the cornerstone, in whom the whole structure being joined together grows into a holy temple in the Lord. In him you also are being built together into a dwelling place for God by the Spirit.
Thank you. Now, while the Apostle Paul talks about warfare, he refers to spiritual warfare in Ephesians 6. But while we can bracket the topic of fighting a just war, example, stopping Nazi aggression, the Christian's war doesn't require earthly weapons. Someone go to 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 4.
For the weapons of our warfare are not fleshly, but powerful through God for the tearing down of strongholds. We are tearing down false arguments and every high-minded thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God. We are taking every thought, that's it,
Making it obedient to Messiah. Yep.
Yeah.
The kind of conquest Paul calls for is overcoming evil with good, Romans 12:21. So we're not talking about generic religion. Where else do we see this preaching of overcoming evil with good? Messiah's Sermon on the what? Right? Sermon on the Mount? Yeah. So we're not talking about generic religions as though all religions are alike and that any one religion is as harmful as the next. Also, we should ask if a religion is true. If a religion is true,
Wrong.
also we should ask if a religion is true, does it square with and explain reality? So for example, in the Quran it says that the sun sets in a pool of mud. The Bhagavad Gita says the earth is suspended on top of a turtle that's on a, I think, giant sea. Greek mythology has Atlas holding up the earth on his back. Do all of these line up with reality? No. What does Isaiah say? That the Lord suspends the earth over nothing and observes? No, yeah, in one place it says he suspends the earth over nothing. Another place it says he sits on top of the great circle of the earth watching us like one would watch grasshoppers. So I mean, I would say that lines up more with reality than the sun setting in a pool of mud. We should make the mistake of conquering Assyrians. What? We shouldn't make the mistake the conquering Assyrians did, who spoke of God of Jerusalem as of the gods of the peoples of the earth, the work of men's hands. So someone read that in 2 Chronicles 30, chapter 32:19. Were the Babylonians Assyrians? Who were the Assyrians? Who were they descendants?
Assyria.
Were they Babylon part of that?
No,
No?
it's in northern Iraq.
Northern? Okay.
Yeah, so Nineveh was their capital.
Okay.
And then historically, the prophet Job was buried near Nineveh. They actually found his tomb while we were there.
Okay. All right, 2 Chronicles 32:19. Someone find it.
It says, they spoke against the God of Jerusalem as of the gods of the peoples of the earth made by human hands. Exactly what you just read.
Okay. So when we're talking about more religion, we're also talking about one that's true. What about Schwartz's claim that monotheism leads to violence? Now it's hard to see how God's oneness could lead to violence in itself. For one thing, Schwartz ignores Old Testament references to God's grace, compassion, patience, and mercy. We see that in Exodus chapter 34, verses 6 and 7. Now, theologian Miroslav Volf argues that if one gets rid of monotheism, quote, the division and violence between us and them hardly disappears. In the eyes of pagan Roman emperor worshipping polytheists, i.e. worshippers of many gods, Christians were persecuted as atheists. Belief in one God was close enough. Ironically, monotheistic Christians were singled out for attack by the diversity affirming religionists in the Mediterranean world. Now, has anything changed in the last 2,000 years? No. We're still being attacked by the diversity affirming. Anyway, beyond this, history, in addition to tomorrow's headlines, is littered with not necessarily monotheistic tribes warring against each other over this communist government attacking that religious group. And why the focus on religion per se? Why not attack politics and political abuses of religion? What about ethnic tribalism that gives rise to hostility and violence, as in the former Yugoslavia? Why not consider complex sociological and historical factors that contribute to conflict? Alienation, poverty, disempowerment, racism, tribalism, power structures, historical feuding, and animosity may give rise to anger and then to violence. Religion often turns out to be the label. Religion often turns out to be the label used to justify violence between warring parties. So why think that religion is the sole factor, the entire cause of blame? Rather than dragging God into the situation to cover over the root problems, we should resist the manipulation of God for our purposes. And what about the positive effects of a religion? What if more benefit than harm comes from a particular religion? The notion that religion causes violence or harm typically obscures a complexity of factors involved. What was this country's, the founding fathers, the documents they put together? What were their bases? What was their foundation? What were they based on?
Christianity in the Bible.
Christianity in the Bible?
Protestant Christianity specifically. Thought there was
Hasn't this been one of the most tolerant nations along all religions, all peoples of all?
As far as I understand, part of the reason why we have a separation between church and state clause in the First Amendment is so that you don't have anything like the Vatican that would ever roll over the United States.
Correct. What did the English run away from? What did they have in England at the time?
They had the Anglican Church.
Church, yeah.
Yeah, the church was the state, and the state was the
Correct.
church, and that's what they were getting away from.
All right, raising Cain. Let me,
Yeah, because we got the State of the Union at 9 o'clock. You
I
gotta be
know,
done.
okay. All right, raising Cain. What
Turn
of
on
short?
TV.
I'll take my time.
Mhm.
I'm back. What of Schwartz's problem of Cain? God didn't choose Abel at the expense of Cain. God had warned Cain of his sinful attitude, saying that he must master the sin that is crouching at the door. So what sin could have that been? Had he already committed the murder by that point?
No.
Okay. Someone go to Genesis 4:7. Let's read it in context.
It says, if you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, sin is crouching at the door. Its desire is for you, and you must rule over it.
Cain could have offered an acceptable sacrifice if his resentment had turned to humility. Again, we were talking about that earlier. What would have been the acceptable sacrifice?
Anything with blood.
Anything with blood, yep. Though Cain was angry and his countenance fell, verses 5 through 6, God reminded him that such a condition wasn't inevitable. If you do well, will not your countenance be lifted up? Verse 7. Plainly, God didn't favor Abel at Cain's expense. In fact, even after Cain killed Abel, God still granted a protective grace to Cain. What did he put on Cain so that people will know he was protected? A mark, correct. Where did he put that mark? On his forehead. The same applies to Jacob and Esau. Though Esau didn't receive their inheritance rights, he was still reconciled to his trickster brother at the story's end. Genesis 33:4. So what does the name Jacob mean? Yeah, that's right. Esau succeeded while Cain failed. God shouldn't be blamed in either scenario. And when it comes to Israel and the nation, God's choosing Israel didn't exclude other nations from salvation. We have Rahab. Where was Rahab?
Jericho.
Yeah, Jericho, up in the list. She was the prostitute that ran the inn there in what we think is a fortress, Jericho. How about Ruth? The Moabite. How about Nineveh in Jonah's day? The entire town did what?
Yeah.
Not only they, but who else fasted with them? In sackcloth. Animals. That's how serious they were. Indeed, God's desire is to include all who will come to him. Even within Israel, God chose the tribe of Judah through which the Davidic Messiah would come. Again, this was a means of bringing salvation to the Jews, but also to the Gentiles. Just because God chose to work through Judah, who had a besmirched reputation. We won't read the verses, but what was their reputation? What kind of things did they do?
Judah slept with his daughter.
Okay.
Got her pregnant and then was
Tamar.
gonna have her killed for.
Daughter or daughter-in-law?
Daughter-in-law.
Yeah, daughter-in-law,
Tamar.
yeah. What else, Amy? And?
And he was gonna have her killed for what she did,
Correct.
because she was pregnant, but
Yeah.
he was the one that fathered the children.
Correct.
Until she said, I can bring you his staff and
I
his.
can bring you staff and cloak, yeah, that you left behind.
Oh no.
All right, so it didn't mean that Joseph, a man of faith and integrity, couldn't experience salvation or receive God's blessing through trust and obedience. Now, besides this, consider how some persons are more intelligent, athletic, artistic, or pleasant looking than others. We don't have perfect equality here, accepting the dignity and worth of each individual. Yes, those apparently less endowed can become resentful or jealous of those seemingly more endowed, or one can recognize the graces one has received and constructively deal with disappointments. In fact, some of the presumed assets of money, good looks, or intelligence can actually be spiritual hindrances and sources of pride and self-sufficiency. Think of the blind hymn writer Fanny Crosby, 1820 to 1915. She lived 95 years, wow. When she was 6 weeks old, a doctor applied the wrong medicine, a hot poultice, on her inflamed eyes, which resulted in permanent blindness. Now, rather than becoming resentful, she vowed to be content with her lot in life. She wrote some of the most uplifting hymn songs by Christians, such as "To God Be the Glory," "Great Things He Has Done," and "Jesus, Keep Me Near the Cross." Now, reflecting on her blindness, she wrote these stanzas. "Oh, what a happy soul I am, although I cannot see, I am resolved that in this world content I will be. How many blessings I enjoy that other people don't. To weep inside because I'm blind, I cannot and I won't." The right of self-exclusion. Schwartz's problem is that she hasn't taken the doctrine of the Trinity seriously enough. The triune God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, is not a self-enclosed deity. He graciously creates human beings to share in his life, joy, and goodness. God is indeed humble and other-centered, serving his creatures and showing kindness to all. Someone go to Matthew 5:45. I think that's why it says, "Doesn't the Father reign on both the just and unjust alike?"
So that you may be children of your Father in heaven. He causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous.
Okay, thank you. A central distinguishing feature of God and of those who take his rule seriously is love for one's enemies. This isn't the easy love of being good to those who are good to us, but the tough, gritty, and most complete love over all other types of love. Matthew 5:46 to 48. Now, someone may object, isn't there the doctrine of hell, the ultimate exclusion? Why doesn't God show absolute hospitality to all without exclusion? Isn't this the truly peaceful alternative? Miroslav Volf astutely observes that absolute hospitality becomes difficult when the unrepentant perpetrators sit down with their unhealed, violated victims. Such a perverse view of hospitality would actually
Take Maryland 200 East, Columbia Pike, Burtonsville, and US
double tide, Rabbi, double tide, would actually enthrone violence because it would leave the violators unchanged and the consequences of violence unremedied. Where was I?
The older brother.
Such a perverse view. Oh yeah, the older brother in the prodigal son story, Luke 15, was left with a decision. Would he stay outside to sulk and pout, or would he come in to celebrate the return of his younger brother and thus show honor to his gracious father? Which one did the older brother choose?
No,
What's that?
he chose to ignore.
It doesn't, yeah, you're right, it doesn't say what his choice was in the end. Hell itself is the act of self-exclusion from God, the final act of self-assertion and control. If we wanted a divorce from God, if we want a divorce from God, He's going to grant it. Hell isn't a torture chamber of everlasting fire. Hell is ultimately a realm of self-separation and quarantine from God's purpose. Someone go to 2 Thessalonians and read verse 1-9.
They will suffer the punishment of eternal destruction, away from the presence of the Lord and from the glory of His might.
So once I asked the pastor, it was kind of a new Christian, like, what is hell? Because, there was all these images on TV of pitchfork with Satan, and anyway. He made it very simple as Pastor Joey. He said it's just a place where you're in the place where all of God's attributes are absent. So, for example, God is love, right? 1 John 4:8. So, where there's no love, where there's what? Hate. God is peace, Judges 6:24. If there's no peace, right? He's the Prince of Peace, right? If there's no peace, there's what?
Chaos.
Yeah, chaos, okay. God is rest. Matthew 11:28. Come to me, all of you who are weary and burdened, I will give you rest. So what's the opposite of rest?
Labor.
Yes. Rest, unrest, I don't know, just turmoil. God is joy. What's the opposite of joy? The Spirit. Yeah, so you can see it turns out to be a pretty ugly place. Hell is the absence of all of God's attributes, blessings, and His providence.
So you don't think that there's any fire in hell?
There's no fire in hell. There's heat and there's discomfort, but it's so dark. The Bible says it's so dark you can't see your hand before your eyes. It's the complete absence of light because God is light. And so the hell will be a place of heat and torture and torment with complete darkness. You'll be able to hear other people, but you won't be able to see anything. And there will be the constant gnashing of teeth and crying. And that's what you'll hear is other people gnashing their teeth and crying. But you'll absolutely see nothing because God is light, and without light, you're not going to see anything.
And you can't sleep it off. It's not like you can go, oh, I remember the good old days when I was in, Cabo drinking margarita. No. He won't, it's a constant, what we just read earlier.
Not fun.
Not fun, and you can't sleep it away, you can't change your thoughts. I don't think you can change your thoughts to good things, and no, it's like, it's constant torment that you can never get away, you can't sleep away from it, it's just.
There's a woman on YouTube named Lisa Sharkey. She went to hell. She's born again, and she talks about it in a crying video. She said the blackness, you could feel it. It was so dark, and
Yeah, it was like the plague, the plague of darkness. You couldn't see your hand before your face, and it was overwhelming.
What was her name?
Her name is Lisa Sharkey.
Looking her up.
These-
But like in Revelation, it talks about it being like a lake of fire and brimstone.
It is. It's a lake of heat and fire where there's constant torment, but there's no light.
God is light.
That's what I thought. That's
We
what I
think
thought.
of fire as light. We think of fire as having a light and putting off a reflection, but
I thought the same thing, but I thought the same thing, but I thought you were going somewhere else for a second there. It is a place of fire, like where you're in fire, but like.
you don't
You don't
see
see
it.
it.
You can't see
You don't
it.
see the fire, you don't see anything.
But
You
I've
feel
heard
the heat.
people, I've heard people argue, well, how can there be fire if like there's no, like fire like lets off like a light,
Yeah.
So like how can there be fire if there's no light, but I guess.
It's a
God.
supernatural fire. It's not a
Yeah.
natural fire.
Or remember,
Yeah,
God
I
is
was-
light, right? So again, we're absence of light.
The absence
Yeah.
of light means there's absolutely complete darkness.
Yeah,
So
no.
Just remember it easy. God's attributes, the opposite is hell. So, all right, so we read the spirit being, okay, so spirit beings, the devil and his angels, will have the final separation from God that they desire. C.S. Lewis puts it in this way: I would pay any price to be able to say truthfully, all will be saved. But my reason retorts, without their will or with it. If I say without their will, I at once perceive a contradiction. How can the supreme voluntary act of self-surrender be involuntary? If I say with their will, my reason replies, how if they will not give in? No, the problem isn't religion. Although many religiously inspired actions are certainly perverse and grotesque. In the Old Testament, we see that God desires to include Jew and Gentile, friend and enemy alike, in his saving purposes. Now, when we come to the New Testament, this vision of one people from all ethnic groups is finally being realized. Now, properly understood, the Christian faith, and not some generic category called religion, with its doctrine of the self-giving and other-centered Trinity, is actually a beacon of hope for peacemaking and reconciliation. Someone go to Romans 5:6. That's how are we? Otherwise, yeah. These will be the last passages we'll read. Romans 5, verses 6 through 11, and Ephesians chapter 2, 14 through 17.
I'm trying to figure out that.
Said 6 through 11, right?
Yeah.
For while we were still weak, at the right time Christ died for the ungodly. For one will scarcely die for a righteous person, though perhaps for a good person one would dare even to die. But God shows his love for us, in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Since therefore we have now been justified by his blood, much more shall we be saved by him from the wrath of God. For if while we were enemies we were reconciled to God by the death of his Son, much more, now that we are reconciled, shall we be saved by his life. More than that, we also rejoice in God through our Lord Jesus Christ, through whom we have now received reconciliation.
How about someone in Ephesians 2, 14 through 17?
For he himself is our peace, who made both groups into one, and broke down the barriers of the dividing wall, by abolishing in his flesh the enmity, which is a law of commandments containing an ordinance, so that he himself he may make two into one new man, thus establishing peace, and one might reconcile them both in one body of God, the cross, but it having put to death the enmity.
All right, some may refuse to participate and continue the conflict, but that is not the fault of the Christian faith. What about the Crusades? What about it? Critics mention the Crusades as evidence for the violence of Christianity. Well, we can readily admit that the Crusades, the Inquisition, and Europe's religious wars were a tragedy, a blot on the history of Christendom. But do these events reflect the essence of Christianity?
No. They represented the position of the Catholic Church.
Yeah. All this talk of religion causing war raises questions of its own. What do we mean by religion? Every religion that has ever existed. Confucianism, Buddhism, Baha'i, Christian Science, Jehovah's Witnesses. And the religion war connection assumes that religion has little connection to truth. Any unique, authentic, honest-to-goodness divine revelation isn't even on the critic's radar screen. Nor is the question asked, is violence embedded in this particular religious tradition? Or is it utterly inconsistent with that particular religion? Now, those who rightly critique the Crusades as morally misguided will go further to lump the Crusades with Islamic jihad. Now, doing so is a mistake, and I can only sketch out the generalities here. The Arabic term for jihad means struggle, which can encompass inner intellectual or moral struggle, as well as militant, violent struggle. However, the more traditional Islamic understanding of jihad is the violent kind that has characterized the sweep of Islam's history. There's little support for jihad as merely spiritual, internal struggle. Now, even if we compare the Crusades with militant, aggressive Islamic jihad, the Crusades come out looking considerably better.
I don't even know why he's talking about this, because this wasn't something commanded by God for them to do. They saw the Islamic takeover of the Holy Land, and they went after the Islamists, not after the Jews. They simply killed Jews along the way as practice. But this was not something that God had commanded them. And there's even a children's crusade where they sent children as young as 8 years old to the Holy Land to fight against the Islamists. So that had nothing to do with the Bible. I don't know, again, so I don't know why he's even arguing this in this particular book.
I even wonder if during the Crusades, whether the Catholics, the Church, still had the Bible in Latin, which they only read in Latin, which meant the majority of the people couldn't read it. I wonder if they still had that control. Because for a long time, they didn't allow anyone to read it.
They may have. I mean, there were 4 crusades, and including the Children's Crusade. So, but it's not something that God commanded. It's something the Catholic Church commanded.
Correct.
So again, when he talks about is God a moral monster, unless he's associating the fact that what the Catholic Church did was under Christendom as opposed to under scriptural authority. I don't know. It just seemed like a weird thing for him to include in this book.
All right, let's look at the differences. The Crusades, 1095 to 1291. All right, so the Crusades lasted about 200 years. Jihad in Islam. Jihad has been ongoing for more than 1,300 years. The Crusades have been criticized as the beginning of imperialism. Muhammad's imperialistic jihad expeditions began more than 500 years prior to the Crusades. The Crusades began as an effort to recapture from Muslims land once occupied by Christians. Jihad began with the intent to take Christianized territory never occupied by Muslims to establish the Ummah, Islamic community. Jesus, in whose name the Crusades were fought, did not teach or exemplify violence against those who refused his message. Now, Muhammad not only preached violence against non-believers, but also engaged in it himself in over 60 aggressive military campaigns. The earliest followers of Yeshua and those who wrote the New Testament didn't advocate violence. In its earliest centuries, the politically powerless Christian faith expanded through deeds of love and communicating the life-changing news of Messiah. The Quran includes many militant, aggressive texts. After Muhammad's death, Islam was extended far and wide through violence. It overran previously Christianized areas and regularly posed a threat to establish Christendom. Example, Spain, France, and Vienna. And we can add to that Dearborn, Michigan, and London,
Isn't that interesting?
But I
Berlin.
mean, Syria, Lebanon, Afghanistan, Iraq, these were all Christian nations.
Correct, yeah.
It's not just, it literally, this was all taken by the sword, by the force of conversion or die.
All right, let's consider the comments of Bernard Lewis, the leading Western scholar on Islam. He nicely summarizes the significant difference between Islamic jihad and the Crusades, despite both being waged as holy wars against infidel enemies for the true religion. And here's what he says. The Crusade is a late development in Christian history and, in a sense, marks a radical departure from basic Christian values as expressed in the Gospels. Christendom had been under attack since the 7th century and had lost vast territories to Muslim rule. The concept of holy war, more commonly a just war, was familiar since antiquity. Yet in the long struggle between Islam and Christendom, the crusade was late, limited, and of relatively brief duration. Jihad is present from the beginning of Islamic history and scripture in the life of the Prophet. I would put the P in lowercase, but anyway, and in the actions of his companions and immediate successors. It has continued throughout Islamic history and retains its appeals to the present day. Now, the word crusade derives, of course, from the cross, Latin crux, and originally denoted a holy war for Christianity. But in the Christian world, it has long since lost that meaning. Jihad, too, is used in a variety of senses, but unlike crusade, it has retained its original primary meaning.
So I want you to think about this. In the Old Testament, in the Old Covenant, God told them, go and kill all the Amalekites, right? go and destroy the Canaanites, go and do these things. Do you see any command like that in the new covenant?
No.
Why is that? What changed?
God wants to redeem all of them?
The difference is now they can come through Jesus. They weren't coming, those guys were not coming to faith. And the power of being able to come to the faith was not as easy as it is through the power of Jesus. This is why everything changed, and this is why there's no command to kill any group of people again after the advent of Messiah, because now because we have the Ruach, the Holy Spirit, we're able to keep the law, we're able to follow Yeshua, we're able to get that salvation without having to go through all the religious nonsense that we had to go through before. So Yeshua changed everything, and that's why you don't see a command to kill everyone of a group of people in the new covenant anywhere.
All right, critics of the Crusades or the Inquisition are certainly correct that the Christian shouldn't advocate atrocities or execution for heresy in the names of Jesus. And we should ask the critics, why select the anti-Christian events as exhibits A and B for the Christian faith rather than looking to the example and teachings of Jesus himself? Not to mention Francis of Assisi, Martin Luther King Jr., Mother Teresa, William Wilberforce, and other Christian peacemakers. Indeed, atrocity and theological reigns of terror carried out in Jesus' name oppose all that Jesus stood for in his ministry. Are Yahweh wars in the Old Testament just like Islamic jihad? Though I addressed this topic in more detail elsewhere, we should probably say something about the common accusation, which is, aren't the Old Testament's Yahweh wars just like militant Islamic jihad?
No.
No.
We should keep in mind that Islam traditionally has divided the world into two realms. One, the abode of Islam, peace, Dar al-Islam, salam, where Islam dominates, and the abode of war, Dar al-Harb, where the rule of Islam should be extended by war if necessary. Islam is a dominant creed. Traditionally, the Muslims' attitude toward non-Muslims has been ruler versus ruled, victor versus vanquished. Indeed, ancient Islam never gave thoughts to a Muslim living under a non-Muslim government.
And that means that any place that's ever been Islamic and was taken back by any culture or religion is under jihad, because Islam demands that it be returned to them. And any place that has not yet come to faith in Islam is under jihad because they must come to faith. So you have no choice. This is why Islam will be the one world religion at the end of time.
I agree with that.
Where Christianity will capitulate and allow for homosexuality, and there's more than one way to God, and everybody's, blah, 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 God is love. Islam won't bend the knee to anybody. So the Christianity and Judaism, again, because you've got liberal forms of Judaism too, which allows for all manner of sinfulness. Islam is the only one who's going to fight and take over.
What about liberal Muslims?
Oh, they'll just be killed off like the rest of us. I mean, again, and here's the problem with Islam too. You have the Wahhabis, you have the Shiites, the Sunnis. They all believe the other ones are wrong too. It's like in Judaism. The Orthodox don't believe that the conservative and the reform are Jews, and the conservatives don't believe the reform are Jews. And then, you just have all these different houses of faith and thought. And once they kill off all of us, they'll just kill each other until they get to the right form of Islam. So it doesn't matter. It's all nonsense. But they won't. But you can't get Islam. You never see. First off, you never see anyone challenging Islam. You see the lie that Islam is the religion of peace being spread throughout our societies, because it's a lie that has to be said so that people will accept Islam as peaceful. And then you have to ignore the fact that they kill the same people that these liberals are trying to protect. The homosexuals, the lesbians, the women, and all that kind of stuff. They have no rights. They have no privilege under Islam. But these are the same groups that are, and even the idiot liberal Jews are supporting Islam. So again, and that's one of the reasons why the borders all over the world have been opened and Islam's moved into every country, because just God is spreading them all throughout the world so that they'll be ready to destroy everybody once the tribulation starts. So it's all coming. I mean, you can see how it's building up.
Well, I had a question.
And the liberals love Islam.
They do.
They love
That's what I was gonna ask. I was gonna say
And
why.
Islam loves them.
Because Islam loves the liberal because they're useful idiots for
Yeah.
them. And
That's why the liberals love them back.
well, no, the liberals love them back because they're blinded from truth.
Yeah.
All they see is you know, orange man bad, Jesus bad, Christianity bad, masculinity bad. They only see what they want to see. But the fact and the truth of the fact that Islam will destroy them, kill them, throw them off the roof, you know, just murder them by torture and force women into subjectiveness through wearing the burqa and through not being allowed in public, not being allowed to drive. They don't see any of that as being a real threat to them. That's why they're called useful idiots, because they will continue to serve their satanic master until they are put in the gulag themselves. And they won't believe it until the gulag door shuts behind them. That's when they'll catch on.
No, but I see now why Muslims love liberals, but I don't understand why liberals love Muslims when, you know, like, they kill homosexuals, women don't have any rights, isn't that like what they're
They
big
don't
on?
see it.
Because they're not seeing it like that.
They don't see it.
They're seeing that Islam
Inclusive,
Islam is being persecuted like they are. And the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So they're seeing themselves as that.
Oh. No,
Okay.
that makes sense now.
Yes.
And you don't think the money that they're paying them to do it's not helping?
Yeah, like Sears Karma or whatever, the English guy, Sears Karma.
Oh, yeah.
He's probably getting millions, if not millions upon millions from Arab nations. I swear if that ever comes out.
It doesn't matter though,
So
because
he's getting into them.
you can't spend your millions in hell.
Yeah,
So
it's-
good for him, you know?
Yeah, it's,
Try giving that money back to the devil. He doesn't care.
I think one of the guests who came to the parade last year, I think he got arrested for being on Epstein's list.
all right, so we'll move on. Offensive warfare and quashing the
Do
opposition
you know this already?
has, what's that? Oh. Offensive warfare and quashing the opposition has been the heart of Islam from the very beginning. Number one, its founder Muhammad engaged in over 60 military campaigns. And he also was I think we could say he was a pedophile.
Married like what,
He was engaged to Aisha when she was 7, and it was consummated when she was 8 or 9.
That's
And there's more stuff, but I won't go into it.
How old was Muhammad? at
He
the
was
time?
at 55.
A
Really
55-year-old man marrying a
That's nothing.
59-year-old girl.
When he was 62, he saw a little toddler and said, future wife, in one of the writings
Wow.
about him. Yeah, so, which explains why, anyway, we won't go there.
He was on the Epstein list too.
Yeah, he would have been.
He would have, wow.
He'd have been on Epstein Island.
Okay, all right, the Quran contains many harsh, aggressive, and militaristic passages. 3, ever since Muhammad's death, his followers have spread Islam by violent means, often taking over vast segments of Christianized territory. 4, most Muslim countries today, with the exception of Mali and Senegal, have a terrible human rights record. And if most Muslims from these countries are to find political freedom, ironically, they must move to the West rather than stay in their country of
There you
origin.
go.
All right, Jewish Egyptians.
Even with all the Christians in Nigeria that have been murdered, it's all been in the north where the Islamicists are in majority. From the northern half of the country, it's not in the southern half where it's mostly Christian.
All right, Jewish Egyptian scholar Bat Yi has thoroughly documented the history of Dimitude, the condition of Christian Jews and other Dimitude, the condition of Christian Jews and other non-Muslim dhimmis under Islamic law in Muslim-dominated areas. Any Muslim tolerance shown to non-Muslims could always give way to militant jihad if tribute, jiza, wasn't paid to Muslims.
So dhimmi actually means a second-class citizen, and jizya is a tax that you must pay
Jizya,
in
that's
order
right.
to stay alive.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I've heard of that
It's
before.
very common in Islamic countries. And there's certain, I mean, again, there's certain rules where you can't ride a horse in front of a Muslim because you can't be taller than a Muslim, and you have to bow your head, you have to pass on the left, the dirty side. I mean, there's a lot of things. Christians in the old days had to wear something red, and they had to have at least one red shoe, and Jews had to wear something yellow. This is where Hitler got the yellow star from. So there's a lot of things under Dhimmitud and under Islamic subjugation that Christians and non-Muslims had to go through. But paying the tax to stay alive is one of them. Even today in Islamic countries, and we know this because we defend a lot of people in Pakistan through our LADS, which is the legal action for Pakistan. But if a Muslim physically attacks you, you cannot fight back. You can put up defensive, like you can try to block or something, but you cannot hit a Muslim if you're a Christian. You cannot drink from their water fountains. You cannot share utensils that they use. I mean, there's a lot of things going on in Pakistan and other countries that most people don't have a clue about because, again, they don't bother to look into these things. But we support a legal action in Pakistan for all these falsely accused Christians.
That's crazy.
Very much so.
All right, ye or thoroughly documents that ye, is that the last name? Ye? Oh yeah, ye or. Thoroughly documents opposition and even, quote, open extermination of Christian populations and the disappearance of Eastern Christian culture. Speaking of which, so once I had to fly to California and I was real cheap, so I took all these flights with different stops around the country. So it was what should have been a 5-hour flight ended up being like 9 hours. So I was reading the diaries of Marco Polo. Once you start reading that, you can't stop. But he talks about in his travels about the Mohammedans, how they were, I'm paraphrasing, but very close to what he actually says. The Mohammedans in this northern part of China were known to be troublemakers. I thought it was real funny how he says that about them. The myth of Muslim toleration. She says, didn't exist before the 20th century. That is modern creation of the West. It was a result of political and cultural difficulties once colonizing powers like England and France withdrew from North Africa and the Middle East, without the will to protect Christian minorities there. A whole literature developed praising Muslim tolerance towards Jews and Christians. They emerged for economic, think oil, and political reasons. Not wanting to rock the boat, the withdrawing powers preferred an economically profitable pro-Islamic policy. And though the Quran declares, quote, let there be no compulsion in religion, Surah chapter 2, verse 256, compulsion has been part of the Muslim mindset from the beginning. This isn't to deny the presence of many peace-loving Muslims throughout the world. I myself have come to befriend many of them over the years. We can be most grateful for such peace-oriented Muslims, though perhaps more of them could speak out more forcefully against violence carried out in the name of Islam. What then should we make of the comparison between Islamic jihad and the approved Yahweh wars in the Old Testament? Here's a brief overview of the key difference. All right, geography. Yahweh war in the Old Testament. War was geographically limited to the Promised Land. Islamic jihad. There are no geographical limitations to jihad. The non-Muslim world is the abode of war. How about historical length and limit? Yahweh war in the Old Testament. Such war was limited primarily to one generation around the time of Joshua, though minor conflicts continued with persistent enemies of Israel. Islamic jihad. There are no historical temporal limitations to jihad. How about objects of war? Yahweh war in the Old Testament. War was to punish a hopelessly corrupted culture, that is morally and theologically, not because they were non-Israelites or even because they didn't worship Yahweh. This punishment came after a period of over 400 years when the Canaanite sin had ripened fully. Genesis 15:16. Who did God say this to? That the sin of the Amorites is not completed? Who was he talking to? Yeah, Abraham, correct. Islamic jihad. Aggression war is directed toward non-Muslims, including Christians and Jews, the people of the book. Object of God's love. Yahweh war in the Old Testament. Yahweh loves even his enemies, those who don't love him. Genesis 12:3, Jonah. His redemptive plan encompasses the traditional enemies of Israel, Babylon, Assyria, Egypt, and incorporates them into the people of God. How about Islamic jihad? God loves only those who love and obey him. Standard of morality. Yahweh wars in the Old Testament. God's compassionate and gracious nature is the source of God's commands. How about Islamic jihad? The Quran stresses God as sheer will, as opposed to morally good nature, who commands whatever he likes. Fulfilling God's plan. Yahweh warned in the Old Testament, the Messiah's kingdom is to be characterized by peace. In the New Testament, Jesus' task is to undermine the true enemy, Satan and his hosts, not Israel's political enemies. How about Islamic jihad? Muhammad's military aggression is viewed by many Muslims as normative, which sets back the clock on what the Messiah came fulfilling, undermining God's ultimate purpose. No, as traditional understood, the Quran's tolerant verse are earlier and thus outweighed by the later, more militant verses.
It started with jihad. It started when Muhammad believed that he was the prophet of God spoken about by Moses. And when he went to the Jews of Medina to say he was their Messiah, they turned him down. He killed all of them. So it started under the sword. It wasn't non-violent at the beginning. Its violence was at the beginning.
Normativity of war, Yahweh war in the Old Testament. Fighting against Canaanites was not intended to be normative and ongoing, having the force of divine commands, but unique. God has a new, non-nationalistic covenant in mind for his people. Jeremiah 31, Ezekiel 36. Islamic jihad. The military aggression of Muhammad, Islam's founder, supported by the Quran's militarism, Islam's aggressive history, and present political realities in the Muslim countries suggest an intrinsic pattern. Does religion cause violence? Is religion dangerous? To say yes to these questions would be a crass generalization. For one thing, this view fails to account for many variations within all the world's traditional religions, some of which are fairly tame and non-threatening. Second, those who support this notion fail to ask whether militant texts in certain holy books are normative and permanent or unique and non-repeatable. Third, this assumption doesn't distinguish between the essence of a religion and tragic abuses by its practitioners. Fourth, it doesn't consider truth in religion, that some religious viewpoint may actually be true and therefore its competitors would be in error when they disagree with the truth. Finally, the view that religion is dangerous because it excludes other views is itself incoherent. It leaves us wondering, doesn't this mushy pluralism exclude or marginalize the very narrow religious views of, say, monotheism? To make any truth claims is to assert that its opposite is false. All right, Trafalgar Square in the 1960s. What do you see there?
What is that?
Trafalgar Square in London. It's in London. It's in London.
But what do you see in the picture?
No arrows.
The lions, yeah.
Look at it today.
Yeah.
Trafalgar Square
Oh, no.
in the 2020s.
Wow.
And we were talking about the liberalism. Look who's marching with them.
British
Wow.
people.
He looks pretty white to me.
Yeah, Karen.
She looks pretty white to me.
Even the guy with the flag looks British.
He looks more. He looks
don't
like
know.
he's the second or second generation
Yeah, push.
Pakistani or something. But anyway,
That makes
I thought it was in line with what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, no, I've been thinking about that going on in Europe and here for a little while. It's kind of sad to see, honestly.
So I have a few minutes. I'll share something with you. So when in the elections of 2016, I didn't like Trump at all. I thought he was kind of crass. And anyway, I had been following for about 2 years what was going on in Europe with the Muslims takeover. I mean, horrendous things. And the white liberal judges just, and authorities just turning their heads and saying, oh, no, no. Like in one case, you almost think I'm making this up. In one case, I forgot what city in larger city in England, they were raping a lot of the British women. They caught the guy, 12 guys. And they show their names. And even the judge says, man, what you guys did are just heinous acts of crime. And they start listing out their names. Muhammad al-Jarrah, Muhammad al-Islam. Every single one was Muhammad. Yet the authorities say they see no connection between those acts of violence against British women and the perpetrators. When all of their names, I'm not kidding you, were Muhammad.
Yeah.
Or Muhammad.
That makes me mad.
Well, okay, so I've been following what's been going on there in Sweden. And I remember Trump was sitting down with an interviewer and he was talking about this. And he goes, I see these young 18, 32-year-old Islamic men in England and Europe, and they're so angry and destructive. And I go, wow. That's when I said, man, this man gets it. The other ones weren't willing to talk about it, but he was. That's kind of what made me move out of the other camp into his camp, because he saw that as well, and he was willing to talk about it. Like, man, I see these 18, 32-year-old really angry men, which is what they really are in these guys. Anyway, I'm not endorsing anyone by saying that. I'm just telling you what I
Okay,
noticed.
Trump can't run for a third term, it
No,
doesn't matter.
no.
But the reality of it is that these countries, the European culture is killing itself. Because for every baby that the white Europeans don't have, the Muslims have
Like
10.
6.
Oh, and they brag about it.
Yep.
And they said not only that, but your government supports us. We're gonna have to work.
They said they're gonna take over Europe one baby at a time,
Yeah.
and they've been doing it. When you go to London, the most common baby name is Mohammed.
Yeah.
So it's already happened.
I've heard Poland though, like, they've done a better job.
No,
Poland and Hungary did not take any,
you know,
they
kicked
didn't
them
take
out.
any, and I'll tell you what, I'm seeing lots of videos about Germany and about Sweden kicking all their Muslims out now.
That's good.
But it's too little too late is the problem.
Yeah.
Because you can't kick out the ones that were technically born there, because, again, like they try to say that they have birthright citizenship here, which they don't, because they're not subject to the United States in that respect. But a lot of these Somalis that were given protective status and stuff while they were here, they're gonna argue in the Supreme Court, I'm sure will side with them, that they're allowed to stay because they were born here, and they were here legally when they were born here. So, we're gonna be stuck with these guys, and trust me, it's not gonna get better.
Yeah, in Germany said, well, you were taken in because there was a civil war in your country, it's over, go home.
Yeah. But again, it's like, we know of cases in Germany where the people, they're Muslims and they're not working, and they make videos and they're mocking the German people for working so that they don't have to, and they can just stay home and raise babies and have their 4 wives, and then they'll complain to the government, well, the house you gave us is too small, because we have like 12 kids now, and we originally only had like 6 kids. And the government tells them, well, too bad, you have to deal with it, and they just burn the house down. They will literally burn the house down, the government housing they're given, and then force the government to give them a bigger house.
Dang it, they're not even grateful.
No, they're not.
Like, I don't know, I feel like if I had to go to another country to seek asylum, I'd be grateful for their hospitality, but not these.
Well, they're not
people.
really
They don't
seeking
know that.
asylum, they're
I
seeking
know.
jihad, that's the
I
problem.
think that's
I know.
the true motive behind all of this.
When we were
I
in
know.
London last year for Elliot's graduation,
That's
he
right.
instructed Greg and I, do not talk about Trump, do not talk about Israel. And I mean, he meant, I don't wanna get in trouble on the street, so I don't wanna.
Even on the street, you can't
Right,
say
but I was like,
anything, yeah.
well, why not, but I didn't.
Well, it's because, again, it's like here, you mentioned Trump and people start destroying your car and all kinds of stuff, because they're mentally deranged people.
But even in Germany, I think my family is very grateful that I don't live there. Because they just pray that I keep my mouth shut while I'm there.
Yay! All right, well, this week's sermon is sermon 41.
582?
No, it's coming to an end. We only have 2 more sermons left. So this week's sermon is the loosening of Satan and the march towards the eternal order, and then the last sermon 42 will be the turning over of everything to Messiah, the eternal order. So, no, I'm sorry, not to Messiah, to the Father. So we only have 2 more sermons left in the series. However, there's a lot more things that we can discuss about it. So I'm looking forward to this week and next week. I think are pretty interesting sermons on what happens, like when Satan gets loose and all this, what it means, all these verses that are going on, and we will talk about some revelation that's going in there as well. Thursday, we need all the help we can get. Thursday, I need someone to go with me at like 9:30 to pick up those 35 refrigerator freezers. And Steve needs someone, did he talk to you already, Daniel? You're gonna go with Steve at 10:30 or 10 o'clock, whatever, to pick up the truck?
Tomorrow?
No, Thursday.
Thursday, just did.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so you go with Steve. I need someone to go with me. I was hoping Greg was gonna be back, but Amy changed his ticket.
Because he asked me.
I understand. That's not a good enough reason. But yeah, if anyone if anyone, yeah, the little under counter, you weren't here Saturday, sorry. We're getting 35 under the counter refrigerator freezers, and people, apparently 25 people signed up for them on Saturday.
7 now, yeah.
So we're going to bring them back here and put them in the first garage, and then people will pick them up from here. I'm not taking them to your house, don't ask. It's your job to get them to your house. That's all I can tell you. Yes,
Can I
Daniel?
sign up for one too?
Can you sign up? We'll have to see, Daniel, because we did say strictly that if you weren't here Saturday to sign up for it, you can't just now order one, so. But if you're working all day with the refrigerators, then I would think we could probably make an exception to get you one of them for your abode. It's not like we ran out. But see, here's the problem. I told one of the African pastors that I had these 35 refrigerators, and do you want to pick them up? And he said yes, and I said, well, I have to go with you. Do you want to go Tuesday or Thursday? And he never answered me back. So I've told him this before. You don't answer me. So Saturday I offered them to people here, and they wanted 25, 27 out of the 35 that we're getting. So I told him he could have the leftovers, but he's like, well, Rabbi, I wanted those on. Hey, when I say I need to know, you need to get back. And this is not the first time we've had this conversation.
He answered, but he said he forgot to
He
send
forgot
it.
to send it. He answered, but he forgot to push the send.
No.
But look, this is not, like I said, this is not the first time I've told him I need an answer right away, and 2 days, 3 days later, he'll say, well, or he'll say he's going to do something, then he doesn't do it. So again, I don't herd cats well. When it comes to our professional clients, we have to make sure they stay happy.
Yeah.
So he's losing out on this one, but if we have anything left over, he can take the leftover ones. So Steve is going to pick up the truck at Penske, whatever you call it, and Penske.
I don't know why you can't remember that.
It's not important. They've got my credit card on file already, so you just have to go pick it up. Okay, if there's any problem, they can call me. But and then I need someone to go with me. So.
Wes, did you just volunteer?
Now, I'm gonna be here at 3, you said.
Yeah, you're gonna be here at 3. But I still need someone to go with. Actually, we probably should come back here sooner than that. We're gonna. Hopefully, we'll be able to get all 35 in one trip between my van and the 16-foot truck we're renting. So.
Maybe 2.
Maybe Wes can go with you on that one.
You should be able to fit all of them in.
I'm hoping we can get them all in the 16-foot truck.
You should be able to.
Anyway, yeah, Wes, you might have to go with me at 9:30. I don't know.
I've got an appointment at 11.
Well, cancel it.
Oh,
Gosh.
man.
What's wrong with you?
All right, well, hopefully someone else will call and volunteer because we have to get this stuff picked up, so I'm trying to think who else we usually call besides Greg and Wes and Daniel. Who else do we normally call for emergencies?
Samara's husband.
Luis.
He's pretty faithful.
Yeah, I can check with Luis.
How about Buck?
Buck?
Yeah, I can maybe call Buck too. I'll give him a call. I just trying to remember who all we can keep calling.
Buck and Louise.
Yeah, Buck is.
All right, so anyway,
So you want me to come at 2 instead of 3, or?
well, yeah, probably earlier is better than later, because I think we're gonna, I mean, if he leaves here, let's say we both leave here at 9:30, and he goes to pick up the truck, it'll probably take 45 minutes for him to pick up the truck and another 20, 30 minutes to get to the site. And then I have to go right to the site, because I found out that all of these things are over, if you look at this place, it's a big round place. All this is under construction, and there's a security fence you can't cut through. And all the refrigerators are right here, and we have to go all the way around the whole hotel to get them to the front. So that's gonna be the bigger problem. And they weigh about 110 pounds apiece.
Ooh,
So
these are serious, heavy duty.
these are
little-
stainless steel.
Yeah, these aren't.
Hey, the government only buys the best, baby.
With our money.
You looked them up to see how much.
I looked them up, they're like $2,500.
For a small refrigerator.
For an under-the-counter, look, I just bought one for our bedroom, I paid $106, and I thought I was getting ripped off, okay, so.
Buy it, Amazon?
Can people sell those
Yeah.
on eBay? Is that legal? I guess you can.
What's the matter?
That's the first thing you got.
I
Oh,
wonder
we're
if
not.
people do that.
Oh, yeah, turn on the double.
But, yeah, so anyway, we're gonna have that. Anyway, so that we got the sermon, we need help on Thursday. If you're supposed to get a refrigerator, please get here and pick it up. Because again, I'm not taking them to your house. That's 25 separate, 30 separate places I'm not going to. Of course, I think for a $25 fee, we might be able to get Steve to deliver them.
Yeah, $100.
But, no, $25 donation to missions.
Or that's 200.
We just sent $10,000 to the orphanage in Kesey, which was nice, because we had a lot of money came in for Kesey. And I want to thank Mr. Roger, who made a very large donation to Michigan House of Far today too. So we are.
Roger that we went with on Friday?
Yep, Roger Dodger. Roger Dodger made a very generous donation to Michigan today.
Called out with it, last name's
Called out, yeah. So yeah, he's definitely going to heaven. Anyway, let me pray real quick. If you want to stay and watch the State of the Union, you're welcome to stay. We're going to turn it on. Although Trump did say it's going to be the longest one he's ever done, and we know he's done a lot of long ones.
Yeah, it's nice and.
So, anyway, yeah, we can go up to the living room and watch it, okay? Alvina Mokano, we thank you so much, Father, for a chance to study your word together. We look forward to this Shabbat, Father, to further study the book of Daniel, Revelation. And Father, we pray in the name of Yeshua that as you protect us as we go from this place, Lord, you watch over us and watch over our congregation, watch over our country. Father, give us favor where we go, because your word has gone before us, and people with ears and eyes have heard the truth, Father. And we thank you, Lord, for Yeshua and what he's done for us on the cross. And we pray in the precious name of Yeshua. Amen. Can we turn the camera off real quick?
Senator also Brooks isn't going.
Neither is our other senator, Van Lier. Van Lier's not going either. And I'm hoping Ratskin doesn't go either.
I'm hoping none of them show up.
Yeah, I don't care.
That way we can have 100% applause.
We can have all the people from the hockey team there sitting in their seats.
Yeah. Future congressman.